This new subject, I'm now going to start with a vertical in which to relate the subject of the still life to. So I'm going to use the edge of the window frame in this case and just simply draw a vertical line down. I've pre-mixed the colour for the bottle and I'm now going to just lightly indicate with my and the aureole in yellow. So I've mixed up this green which represents the colour of the bottle I've got in front of me. And I'm just going to draw in that shape, starting with the widest part at the top here and bringing it round across the edge of the window frame as it appears in the painting. I've also got a small sponge here, so I can use my sponge in order to change shape at this stage. So I'm just going to bring that around a bit and looking at this distance between the edge of the window frame and the bottle, I then can establish where the neck of the bottle is going to go, which is about there, and how high up it comes in the picture. So it's going to come to about there. This is the height of the actual neck of the bottle itself. We'll draw that in a little bit more accurately. So I've just got those few marks set down there at the moment. Might indicate the other side of the neck and the corresponding bulge on the other side, which comes down. And I'm seeing the bottle slightly at an angle. It's not actually dead facing me because of the way it's positioned on the windowsill. So in fact it is at an angle, but something like this. It's not dead straight. And the back of I can see the back of the ellipse or the base of the bottle. So I'm just going to indicate a little bit of that. Now, in order that this stays as a soft edge, I'm just going to wet it and indicate that there will be some tone on there. I don't want it drying so that I end up with a dry watermark created by the colour. Following on from this, I now would like to indicate the actual windowsill on which this is placed. So I have again pre-mixed a colour to show that. It's a nice sort of warm raw sienna type colour. And I'm going to put the windowsill in just slightly at an angle because I'm not sitting dead straight to it. And I will also indicate the back of the shelf where it hits this bottle, so it's above the base and coming in from about here. So I think it's worth simply pushing a bit of wash in there too, just to indicate the plane of the windowsill. Alongside this bottle I have got two nectarines, and the bottom of the nectarine is about here and the front one. So I'm going to just draw it in with this same colour. And the other nectarine, which is sitting a bit further back on the shelf on the windowsill, is the bottom of it's about there. I'm seeing the top of it here, coming around just to the edge of the page. Again, let's finish off the rest of the windowsill. not going to do anything on the nectarine for the minute because they're a bit wet. And the windowsill has got front edge, which is going to be darker because the light's coming in from behind. So I'm going to mix up a slightly stronger version of that windowsill colour. So I'm mixing a sort of browny colour for the front edge of the windowsill. Touch with the yellow in it. Keep it in line with the other one. In fact, I'm just creating a darker version of this colour we've got here, which is the light surface where the light's hitting the texture of the shelf. And then I'm just going to indicate this across here. So this is going to be darker because the light can't get to it. And so I'm making a very nice warm yellow because that's essentially what I can see. And then I'm going to literally block in this tone, which is sort of halfway between the very dark and the very light as it plays on the fruit. And I'm just going to soften that off until it disappears back into a very light colour at the top where there's almost no colour, where the light's hitting the top of the nectarine. I'm going to just leave that for a minute and work on this one behind. Now the one behind is darker, and I'm going to go straight in with a sort of warm red for that. Just make it with alizarin crimson and the alizarin crimson here and a bit of burnt sienna. We should make a nice warm deep red. Get straight in with the colour. Maybe a touch of blue into it as well, just to knock it down a bit. It's not too bright. There we are. And then I will paint in the back. Now I'm using wet paint on dry. I'm using a wet on dry technique at this point. Again, this edge is a bit damp still, so be careful when you do join one edge up with another that you don't put wet against wet, because it just will run until it's at a stage where it's ready to be blended. And then I'm going to run some of that yellow that I've used here into it, so that you have the two colours fusing together, which I think will work. So I'm just going to literally drop it into the wet paint. Again, I'm going to soften it out so there's a very pale version of the actual extremity of the fruit. So I'm going to go back now and just indicate a bit of this nice warm reddy colour on here. Work on the top here. Right at the edge it's very light, so I'm just going to leave that. And at the top I'm going to indicate the colour. Light is actually hitting the tops of the nectarines. So what I'll do is I'll soften that off completely with a clean brush and a little bit of water. It's indicating a very light part of the nectarine. Now, as I suggested, I'm going to push in the car shadow. I'm going to use a similar colour to the colour I've used here, because it's definitely a greeny colour, the shadow. Maybe it's got a little bit of this warmth coming through on it, the colour from the shelf itself. So there's a tiny, tiny touch of burnt sienna into the green. And then I'm going to paint the cast shadow. So the cast shadow is running from the back of the bottle and it's coming down to the front of the shelf, and actually it's dripping over the shelf. So I'm just going to bring it right the way down now. So you can see this is a sort of warmer version of the green that is being cast by the bottle itself. And a note, I'm drawing in the top of the bottle with the negative space, which is basically what this is. I'm going to now put some water on here and run the colour back into it so that it keeps it very pale and very loose at this stage. Again, I'm going to paint in what I'm seeing, which is a rounded shape. Again, the cast shadow is mimicking the fruit itself. And those cast shadows are actually coming towards me and then disappearing down over the shelf. The darkest part will be directly under the fruit because the light is actually coming from behind. These fruit are in what we call contre-jour. They're being lit from behind. And again, I'm going to just make that fade out till I decide how to develop it and take it down over the shelf. And I'm going to just develop the colour just a fraction more by putting in some slightly stronger washes onto the actual bottle shape. There's all sorts of lights and darks going on in the glass here. I'll just leave those in for a minute. Remember that wherever you want it very, very light, you have to leave the light of the paper. It will actually add interest. As you develop the painting. Across here and the bottom here, which I will bring up in a minute. I have to remember to leave that base of the bottle so we can actually see through the glass. I'm actually seeing the shape of the base. And just consciously leave it for now. And bring this down here. There's a little bit more dark on the top left shoulder of this bottle.